Hey everyone, happy college football. Welcome to Porcelain Picks. I'm your host, Andrew Fabian. It's a Friday afternoon. I sit here on the porcelain throne as it rains outside in the Northeast. We are ahead of Week 13 action, and we have a big slate ahead of us to get through. Entering the week, the Porcelain Boys are 118 and 106. We've been operating in the green for the past few weeks now, coming off a week in which we went 10-7 for you. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, follow us, take a look at our picks this week. Let us know where you agree and where you disagree, because we at Porcelain Picks are hell-bent on delivering the locks you need as you scroll atop the porcelain throne. All right, we're going to start out with Friday action. We're going to stay away from a lot of the rhetoric that has been thrown about the last week. SEC bias this, SEC crying that. We're going to stick with the games at hand. We'll have plenty of time ahead to talk about the playoff rankings and where things unfold as the bracket unfolds in the next few weeks. All right. Friday night, two teams that don't need to worry about that. We got Purdue at Michigan State. Michigan State fighting for bowl eligibility while Purdue is trying to fight their way out of the bottom of the Big Ten. Michigan State is 4-6 on the year. They're a 13.5-point favorite under the lights at home. I think Sparty shows up to this game. I think they're a decent team, better than their record would tell you they are. This team had no expectations preseason. Aiden Childs has been a bright spot at quarterback. They're not going to give up big plays on defense to a Purdue team that comes limping in with a horrific defense and a horrific offense. I think Michigan State wins this game by 20-plus points in front of the home crowd. Take the Spartans, lock it, flush it. On to Saturday action, the noon slate. We got Wake Forest at Miami. Miami coming off the bye week. Over-under set at 65.5 for this game at the time of the recording. Off this bye, a noon game, can Miami come into this a little bit sluggish? Wake Forest, they have a decent offense, but it's really been up and down throughout the year so far. Their defense is terrible. I'm going to go into this thinking that Miami is going to pull away with a big victory here against Wake, but it's not going to be enough to hit this over in this game. Wake is not going to score a lot of points. Miami is going to score a lot of points, but it's going to be a noon window, so it's a slower start. If you're really getting frisky, take the under in the first half. I'm just going to go under 65.5 full game and collect the winnings there. Lock it, flush it. Let's go to the Big Ten. Biggest game of the week. Indiana at Ohio State. Indiana coming in undefeated, ranked 5th in the country. They come in with a lot of those opinions I was alluding to before. Do they belong in the top 5? Do they belong in the playoff conversation? If they lose this game, are they going to stick in the playoff conversation? We'll have a lot of that commentary coming up on Porcelain Audit on Monday of next week. But for now, we're going Indiana plus 10.5 at Ohio State. Again, Ohio State's got the big noon kickoff game, or not the big noon kickoff, but they're playing at noon at home in the shoe. Fans are pissed about this. The team can come out sluggish in these spots. We saw against Penn State. They were down 10-0 early before pouring it on and winning that game. I think Indiana keeps this one close. I think they're continuing to cover spreads week in and week out. They're outperforming expectations, whether it's Vegas expectations or the pundits' expectations. Kirk Cignetti has this team operating on all cylinders. I think Ohio State's going to win this game, but it's going to be within a single-digit margin of defeat for Indiana. So take Indiana plus 10.5, lock it, flush it, get ready for an entertaining game there. All right, Joey MACtion lock of the week number 1. We got 2 coming at you this weekend. One is the noon window. We got Jacksonville State minus 5.5 against Sam Houston State. So hear him out here. Jacksonville State, we got Rich Rodriguez and that dynamic offense coming in. This spread has condensed a little bit since they opened at a 6 or 6.5 point favorite against Sam Houston State. Sam Houston, their defense is penetrable. We've seen that the last few weeks. Their offense struggles to move the ball. Take Jacksonville State. They're going to cover 5.5. Thank Joey Mack for that one. Lock it and flush it. All right, a little bit more from Joey Mack later. We got the SMU game. SMU travels to Virginia, 10.5-point favorites. I've got 2 bets in this game. SMU's going to bounce back in a big way. Virginia, we saw them cover against Notre Dame last week. They got that backdoor cover against the Fighting Irish. I picked Notre Dame in that game, so that was an L for us. I think SMU is going to win this game by much more than 10.5 points. I think they've got a lot to prove as they seek to achieve Big 12 championship notoriety. So let's go, or ACC championship notoriety, I should say. SMU minus 10.5. Lock it, flush it. I also like Kevin Jennings to put up a lot of points in this bounce back game against Virginia. That's SMU's quarterback, for those who don't know. Take the over team total, 33.5. Lock them both, flush them both for SMU. All right. Ole Miss at Florida, big SEC matchup. A lot of conversation around Ole Miss being one of the best teams in the SEC. They're right there on the cusp of the playoff. They've turned it on as of late. We saw them put that shellacking on Georgia. Not sure why Georgia gets a pass for that, but Ole Miss won by 3 scores just 2 short weeks ago. Their defense is great. It's a great defense. Jax St I was high on him at the beginning of the year. He's really putting it together here. And these guys, I think Ole Miss is a team to watch out for in the college football playoff. Take Ole Miss minus 10.5 at Florida. I gave you the Florida money line pick last week, which was correct. They played spoiler to LSU. They did get blown out by Texas the week prior. They've kept a couple games close. I think DJ Lagway is going to have a nice game here against Ole Miss, but ultimately Ole Miss, their defense is going to be too much for Florida's offense. Lock it, flush it, minus 10.5. All right, Iowa at Maryland, an ugly game here. Iowa's with their 3rd string quarterback on the road. They haven't been strong on the road so far this year. Maryland, I think their great wide receivers are going to be able to get open in this game against the Hawkeyes defense. That's Ty Felton and Caden Prather, 2 names to look out for on Sundays, two of the minimal bright spots that this Terrapins offense has. Take Maryland plus 4.5. They're going to cover the spread. They may win this outright, but I'm going to take those points all day. Lock it, flush it. UMass at Georgia. Kirby Smart is angry. If you saw his interview after the rankings release from last weekend after they beat Tennessee, you would see an angry Kirby Smart. He doesn't understand these rankings. Whether you agree with him or not, this guy is one of the best in the business at putting up bulletin board material. He somehow convinced his team that they had their backs against the wall and everyone was out to get them a couple years back when they were number 1 all year and won the national championship. This guy is going to use this as fuel for the team. I pray for UMass in this game. I think Georgia's going to win by 50 plus. Take Georgia minus 42. Their backups will pour it on UMass. Lock it, flush it. Illinois at Rutgers, opposite end of the coin, these two teams. Illinois averaging 27 points per game, but they're going on the road to Rutgers. It's going to be a cold weather game. I think we're going to have to see a lot of running in this noon kickoff. Over-under is way too high, set at 47.5. This game's going to go under. It's on Peacock. Not a lot of eyeballs will be on it. Rutgers, Illinois. Illinois is going to win a tight game. Lock it, flush it on the under, 47.5. Move to the 3:30 window. We'll kick off the 3:30 slate with Joey Mack action. All right, this is 2 of 2 for this week for Joey Mack, so make sure you are paying attention. So we got Florida International at Kennesaw State. FIU, they move the ball consistently. Both teams do. However, both teams coming off tough offensive outputs against Sam Houston State as of recently, but we've seen Joey Mack's seen teams all year long come back from a game against Sam Houston State to put up a lot of points the following week. So this over-under is 43.5 right now. Joey Mack thinks this could go up into 60 or even above that. Take the over in this game. Thank Joey Mack for that. Lock it, flush it. All right, we've got the Citadel at Clemson. Big matchup, I know. Clemson. Over-under is set at 58.5. Clemson is banged up on the offensive line. They've got South Carolina next week. They are still fighting for a chance of the playoff. This over-under is way too high. Clemson's going to run the football. They're going to have backups in the game. They're going to try to make sure they don't get injured any more than they already are. They're easily going to beat Citadel. It's going to be something like 42-6. So take the under, 58.5. Lock it, flush it. Colorado at Kansas. Colorado minus 2.5. They're also playing for college football playoff aspirations with Coach Prime. They've flown a little bit under the radar, which is just where they want to be and just where I like it as a fan. I like rooting for these guys when they're not in the media every single day. I think Shadur has put together an incredible season. He's going to be playing on Sundays before we know it. But Kansas, on the flip side, you might look at them and think, what, they're a 4-6 team. They just had a nice upset victory last week to play spoiler to BYU. Jaden Daniels has this team playing like a top 25 team. So while they're 4-6, they're way out of the conversation for top 25 picture. They are playing like it the last 4 weeks. Look for Kansas to be very competitive in this game. Colorado is only a 2.5-point favorite. Again, a college football playoff contender, a Big 12 championship game contender. I like Colorado to win this one. I think it's going to be a tighter game than we think. Colorado minus 2.5. Lock it, flush it. I think they match up pretty well against Kansas's rushing game. Colorado, we saw them shut down Utah, who has a strong running game. So look for the Buffaloes to continue to put things together here as they seek supremacy in the Big 12. Kentucky at Texas. Texas is a 20.5-point favorite right now. That might drop. Believe it or not. So keep your eyes on that. Texas, it could be a look-ahead spot to Texas A&M. I don't think so. Really, Texas, with their strength of schedule and all the discussions you've heard around that the last week or 2 weeks, they really need all the style points they can get. We know, looking at this Kentucky team, they're on the bottom of the SEC rankings, but they've played very close games against Tennessee, losing by 7. And then we saw them only lose to Georgia by 1 in a 13-12 game earlier this year that people seem to forget when they look at Georgia's resume. They also beat Ole Miss. So Kentucky, we know they can win these types of games. Texas is not going to be snuck up upon here. They're not going to be caught looking ahead. They know what Kentucky can do, and they need to put up style points. It all comes together for a big Texas win. I think it'll be close in the first half. We might be questioning this pick going into the third quarter, but look for Texas to blow this one open. Minus 20.5. Lock it. Flush it. All right, we got Penn State at Minnesota. Again, disclaimer, I'm a Penn State fan. I went to Penn State, so I like to throw that asterisk out there in case you want to avoid this game. However, I'm right more often than I'm wrong on Penn State games, right? Penn State at Minnesota. Minnesota scares me if I'm a Penn State fan. We know 2019, they were the thorn in the side. They knocked Penn State out of that playoff conversation back with a 4-team playoff, and Penn State's best year for that when it comes to chances to make the playoff. They're a tough outing. They're 6-4 right now. We saw them have a couple close calls in losses. They could just as easily be 8-2 and in the playoff conversation right now. Minnesota's defense is very opportunistic, or their offense is very opportunistic off turnovers. Their defense near the top of the country. They're in a top 5 overall in takeaways. They set their offense up with short field positions, but they can't punch it in very often. All right, so look for Taylor, the running back on Minnesota. He's going to get his carries. He's going to get his touches off the screens. But Penn State's going to be able to bottle up this Minnesota offense. So it's all about removing obstacles for Penn State, keeping the ball close, protecting the ball for Drew Aller and for these running backs. No fumbles, no short field positions for Minnesota, and they'll be okay in this game. However, the pick under 45.5. Penn State's going to look to get out of this with a victory, move on to Maryland. They just need to get business done and win games, and they'll be hosting a playoff game in just a few weeks. So lock it, flush at the under 45.5. We got Pitt, Louisville. Take the under, 58.5. Pittsburgh's on their backup quarterback. They've been banged up. Their games typically we take over, but they're banged up at the skill positions. Louisville's going to win this game. It's going to go under. It's going to be a tight game. 58.5 is way too high. Lock it, flush it. 7 p.m. window, Washington State, Oregon State, the de facto Pac-12 championship game. Washington State is the better team. Oregon State, a very down year. Washington State's ranked 25th in the country or 24th in the country. They're not very good, but I think they're going to put up some points against Oregon State. Take the team total over 34.5 for Washington State. Lock it, flush it. All right, we got 3 left. Army at Notre Dame. Notre Dame, minus 14.5. Lock it, flush it. Army is not going to be a match for Notre Dame. It's not going to be quite as bad as Notre Dame Navy, but Army, they're statistically really good. They're undefeated. Their schedule is weak. Notre Dame's going to blow them out. It's going to be 24 points or better. They know they need style points, and this is going to be a ranked win for them. So look for the Irish to continue to beat down doors here ever since they lost to Northern Illinois. Alabama at Oklahoma. Under in this game is the play. Alabama, I don't think they are going to suffer defeat here. I don't think they're going to be in danger, but they're not going to risk injury to Jalen Milroe. They're not going to be running him. He's not going to get 140 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. I think they're going to play it safe, run the ball with the running backs, short passes. You might see a couple big plays from the Bama offense, but I like this game to go under in something like 27-10 type fashion for Bama to win. Under 47.5. Lock it, flush it. All right, Texas A&M at Auburn. This is my big upset pick of the week. Auburn, just a 2.5-point dog right now at home. I looked at the spread, very similar to Texas A&M, South Carolina. When you look at it on paper and you think Texas A&M should be a much higher favorite than they actually are. South Carolina won that game outright, and it wasn't close. I think this will be similar. I think this will be a close game. It's going to be lower scoring because I think Auburn matches up well on the defensive side. They're good at stopping the run. That's where Texas A&M thrives with Noel at running back and with Marcel Reed at running quarterback. Auburn is, again, they're a few plays away. This is a top 25 caliber talent team. They just have had a lot of turnovers. They haven't been able to put together a complete game. If they can stay without turnovers, they're going to win this game convincingly. I think Auburn's got a sneaky good offense too. Look for Keandre Lambert-Smith, the former Nittany Lion, to get open for 2 long touchdowns in this game as Auburn rolls. Take Auburn money line. They're a 2.5-point dog in this game, so we'll take plus money when I win this one. Auburn money line, lock it, flush it. All right, that's a lot of picks. Thanks for sticking around for 15 minutes on top your porcelain throne. Happy college football, everyone. For Joey Mack, I'm Andrew Fabian. Let's get after it. Thanks all.